black thing go from left to right, and I thought, I'm going to die out here. No one's ever going to know.
I couldn't believe what my eyeballs were showing me. I'll never forget how evil the eyes were. It was horrible. I mean, I've never seen nothing that evil.
It ran towards me at a rate that I can't even explain. Turned and stared at me, and this look of, I just want to kill you. I want to say it was human, but it wasn't.
He was yelling at me to grab a gun, grab a gun. I was like, for what? He said, just grab a gun. And there's footprints all the way to the door of my house. It had went inside my garage all the way to the door.
911, what are you reporting?
Jesus Christ, you better...
Sir?
Rio!
Hello?
Get somebody out here.
What's going on now, sir?
That son of a bitch is about 6'9", I don't know.
Do you see him now, sir?
Yes, I'm looking right at him.
Uh-oh.
You're listening to Sasquatch Chronicles. Check us out online at sasquatchchronicles.com. If you've had an encounter, email me. My email address is wes@sasquatchchronicles.com. Welcome to the show, everyone. Thanks for being here tonight. Got a great show planned for you tonight. Going to be bringing David on. And most of you know Utah Sasquatch, Nathan Rio. David actually went out there to check out the area, and he had some very interesting encounters that happened to him while he was out there. So he'll be sharing a lot of that with us tonight. If you've had an encounter and you'd like to be on the show, shoot me an email. My email address is wes@sasquatchchronicles.com. And how's everyone doing tonight? Friday night. I don't know where you're at, but out here in Washington State, it is just pouring. Dark and gloomy, and it's a rough time of year. I sure miss summer. I wish it was summertime. But I hope you're doing well tonight. Thank you again for being here. Let's jump into it tonight. I want to welcome David to the show. David, thanks for coming on.
Thanks, Wes. Thanks for having me on.
No, I appreciate it. And I know when we talked earlier, you talked about your kind of a lifelong, not really obsession, but just interest in this subject. And, you know, reading some of the older stories and just being fascinated by it. And I think most people, whether you've had an encounter or you haven't had an encounter, I think a lot of people are fascinated by the subject and they look into it. It's funny, I was telling, who was I telling? I was telling Woody the other day. I said, you know, for people who balk at it, I wish they would just take 6 months, look into it, and then come back and tell me what you think. Because I think a lot of people would change their mind on this subject if they actually looked into it. But you went out with Nathan Rio, and Nathan, you know, he's on the website. He's actually a really nice guy. I know he gets a lot of crap, but he's actually a really nice guy. Well, most people, I've talked to him a couple times via chat, and what you see on the videos is really the guy you get. He's not putting anything on. He's actually a really nice guy, but you decided to go out with him to his area. Do you mind talking about that? What you experienced out there and kind of what you ran into?
Sure. It was, first off, I'll say it was, all of it was completely amazing. As much as I tried to mentally prepare myself for what, you know, I may or may not see, there was no way to do it. But, yeah, I was lucky enough to, meet Nathan and ended up being invited to, unrelated to Sasquatch, come out and work for him for a little while. And we were actually roommates for a short period of time. And yes, Nathan's a nice guy, and what you see is what you get. But you know, we had a short experience together, but I was completely and immediately immersed in Sasquatch. And I guess I'll mention, like I told you, my first experience and go from there. But I think I had just arrived at his place, and you know, with my truck full and ready to move in. And I don't think I was there 45 minutes before he asked me if I wanted to go, you know, see some stuff. I was like, sure, no problem at all. It sounds like fun. And I guess I was kind of waiting for him to load us up into the car and, drive off to some location. I had no idea how far, but, he starts walking down the street, and I'm walking with him, and I start to quickly realize that we're not going to be driving to this location from his house. We were going to be walking to this location, which I was kind of taken back by. But anyway, within, a very short distance, we walk into a thicket. I can't recall exactly how far into it before you start to see signs, but it was pretty immediate. You could see smaller tree leans, tree breaks, and then started to see larger signs. There were, large trees laying up in other trees, parallel to the ground, 10 feet up in the air, and lots of little blinds everywhere. And I say little, but, just generally blinds of all different shapes and sizes. And, just looking at it or walking by these blinds without investigating them, they just look like, bushes where the leaves had fallen off or something like that. But closer inspection, you realize that these things were constructed out of little sticks and little branches by the dozens, in some cases hundreds. And these things were just weaved into, maybe one live bush or branch or something like that, and turned into this massive cocoon where, on three sides, you couldn't tell it was anything else but a bush, but you go around the back and sure enough, you can go and get inside the thing. And so that was just absolutely incredible to me. And I guess it just carried on through that. That was the light introduction, but that was the simplest and easiest introduction that I was going to have to Sasquatch, at that point. Moving forward, it was just going to get curiouser and curiouser.
You saw the structures out there in the forest, and I know Nathan's put some of them up on videos. A lot of researchers, investigators put them up on video, and there are some very strange ones. A lot of them I think are man-made, but then you'll come across some where you're like, I don't think a guy put this together. The branches are too big. They're not sawed. They're broke, unless some giant guy came through here. And a lot of them are odd. They're just very odd structures. How many times did you guys go up in that area?
Dozens. I mean, we for the first 2, 3, 4 weeks, I would say we were going out. We'll say the first 2 weeks, it was every single day or night. Mostly it was night. And then it got a little bit sporadic from there. But basically, I think for about 6 weeks, it was pretty constant. Anytime we weren't working or sleeping, we were out in the forest. We were checking out some area or another. Some of them, he had been to several times before. Some of them he had never been to. And, we just kind of would experience the stuff ourselves. But something that was just amazing besides, that first experience was how numerous the areas were, how plentiful the signs were. You're talking about tree leans and all the things related to Sasquatch that may point to something being there. They are everywhere in that area, and that just completely blew me away. But we saw structures all the time. I've photographed and videoed, personally, maybe a dozen or so, and these are significant structures. These are worth, every one of them worth mentioning. But there were much more. And when we're in these areas, and a lot of times we're walking to these areas, or we're following tree leans and certain things out in the forest to lead to bigger areas, we're chatting the whole time, and he's kind of schooling me on what he's been doing and what he's been finding in it. And I know he's seen ×4 what I just mentioned, easy. But that area seems to be everywhere.
I wanted to recount the story about you guys hearing the chatter